fourth graders, Ms. Cross here with you for another week of math learning. And we have been working since the beginning of fourth grade on place value. Now, we are going to continue with that this week, but we're going to move into something that you actually learned how to do last year in third grade, which is rounding. Now, we are going to work this week on using using place value to round whole numbers to any place using tools, and some of those tools might be number lines or anchor charts. Today I'm going to show you a different tool that you can use or draw when you round. We're also going to learn all about a new activating strategy this week, and this one is our favorite. It is called Estimation 180. Now, we are going to do a ton of Estimation 180s this year, and every day when there's an Estimation 180, you will see some kind of a picture, and you will have to make estimates about that picture. Now, an estimate is a smart guess. You're guessing about how many of whatever it's asking you. But the fun thing about Estimation 180 is we make bad estimates before we make good estimates. So we start out by making estimates that are way too high for the question that's asked, okay? And I usually take about 3 estimates from students and write those on the board or on paper under the ladybug. Then I ask for 3 estimates that are way too low, and I take about 3 more. Then I ask for estimates that could be correct. And as we do more math thinking, our estimates should get better throughout the year. So after we have done all of this estimating, we find out what the correct answer is. So you can pause this video, and your teacher can click on the link, which I realize has been spelled, and I will correct that. But you will do your first Estimation 180 today. So you're going to pause this video, open Estimation 180, and then you will estimate too high, estimate too low, and then give some estimates that you hope are correct. Then you can restart this video, and we will get on with rounding. Okay. Good job with your Estimation 180, my friends. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's get into our mini lesson. So, what is rounding? Rounding is something that we can use to help us estimate numbers. We just did estimation in our Estimation 180. It's when we're trying to find about the right answer, not exactly the right answer. Usually in math, we want the exact answer, but sometimes we want an estimate or a close to the right answer, about the right answer. So we use benchmark numbers when we round, and the numbers we use are tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, or even millions. Now in third grade, you learned how to round numbers to the nearest 10 and the nearest 100. We're going to do the same thing in fourth grade, just with bigger numbers. So today we're going to practice with hundreds just to kind of get your mind working again, and we'll go to bigger numbers after that. So remember, if we're rounding to the nearest 10, we're trying to decide which 10 a number is closest to. Is it the 10 that comes before it or the 10 that comes after it? Same thing with hundreds. If you're rounding to the nearest 100, you're going to try to figure out if it's closer to the 100 that comes before it or after it. So today we are going to practice, and I'm going to model it with base 10 blocks. Okay, so this is the problem I want to model rounding with you first. There are 368 students in the fourth grade at Ridge Creek Elementary School. About how many students are in the fourth grade? Excuse me, boys and girls. Okay, so there are 368 students in the fourth grade at Ridge Creek Elementary School. About how many students are in the fourth grade? So I am going to click over to the ladybug, and I'm going to model rounding to the nearest 10, which we're not going to do very much in fourth grade, but I want you to remember how to do it. And then I'm going to switch over to the nearest 100. So let's get over to the ladybug. Okay, so I have put out base 10 blocks to equal 368. So I have 3 flats, which are hundreds, so 100, 200, 300. I have 6 rods, which are our 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and I have 8 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now remember the question said about how many students are in 4th grade. Not exactly, but about. So I want to show you first how to round to the nearest 10. So if I'm thinking of the number 368, the tens that seems closest to, let me write this on a sticky note so you are not just imagining numbers in your head. If I think of the number 368, the tens that this number are in between are the 10 that's less than 68 and the 10 that's more than 68. So if I took these 8 ones away, I would have 360. Now, if I had a number line, which I'm going to show you tomorrow, and I hopped up 10 places, the 10 I would land on would be 370. So I have to decide if this number is closer to 360 or 370. And if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I'm going to look at the smaller place value, the next smaller place value. So I'm rounding to the nearest 10. I'm going to use my ones to figure out how to do this. So if you remember, I have 8 ones. So I need to think, would I need less ones to get to the next 10 or go back to the 10 before? Which one is this closer to, okay? So is this closer to making a new 10 or is it closer to going back to that 10? So if I have 8 ones, I'm noticing if I put this 10 right next to it, I only need 2 more ones to have another 10. So this seems pretty close to making a new 10. If I wanted to go back to this 10, I would have to take away 8 ones. So I'm thinking it's going to be easier to add 2 ones to make a new 10 than to take away 8 ones to go back. So I think that this number is closer to 370. It would only take 2 jumps to get from 368 to 370, whereas it would take 7 jumps to, I don't know where that came from, 8 jumps to get back to 360. So 368 rounded to the nearest 10 is 370. This is closer to this 10 than to this 10. Okay, now let's think of this same number rounded to the nearest 100, okay? So now I have the same number and I have to decide which 100 is it closest to. So if I went backwards, I would get to 300, and if I skipped ahead to the next 100, I would get to 400. So I have to decide, is this number closer to 400 or closer to 300? So now that I'm rounding to my hundreds, I'm going to use the next smallest place value, which is my tens. Okay, so these I'm not even really going to look at this time. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3 hundreds, and then my tens, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tens. So now I have to think, let's put this together because that'll make us think about a new 100 or the 100 before. So would it take me less tens to get to a new 100 or to get to an old 100, the 100 before that? So if I have 6 tens, I know that 6 plus 4 is 10, or 60 plus 40 is 100. So if I have 6 tens, I need 4 more to make a new 100. Okay, boys and girls, so I'm going to grab a different color just to show you, because the number we have is all yellow. I'm going to put these greens here. So if I added these 4 tens, I would have another 100. So by adding 4 tens, I get the next 100 up. Whereas I would have to take 6 tens away to get closer, or to get back to 300. So this is a shorter distance. Going up to the next 100 is a shorter distance than going down to the previous 100. So 368 rounded to the nearest 100 is 400. Okay, let's look at one more example before you are able to go do some practice. And that went really far ahead for some reason. Okay, so now let's look at another one. Now this time we are only going to think about the nearest 100. So Mr. Cross needed to buy a new computer. His computer costs $429. Switching out my pieces real quick. So if the computer he bought costs $429, which 100 is that closest to? Rounded to the nearest 100, about how much money did he spend on this computer? All right, let me flip back over to the ladybug. Okay, so now I have 429. Okay, so I have to decide if this is closer to the lower 100, 400, or the next 100 up, which is 500. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundreds, 2 tens for 20, and 9 ones. Yep, 9 ones. Now, remember, if I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I'm going to use the next smallest place value to do that. So I'm going to be focused on these 10s. So these ones aren't really going to matter with this, okay? So I've got to decide if these two 10s make it easier for us to get closer to 400 or to 500. Now, if I think of taking these 2 away, that's only going down by 20 to get to 400. But if I went up to 500, how many more 10s would I need? I would need 8 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is how many more I would have to add if I was going to jump up to the next 100, which would be 500. So this is a shorter distance going down than this is going up. So this number, rounded to the nearest 100, is 400. It is closer to 400. Okay, so hopefully for those of you who are visual and like to feel things, this is a good example for. Some of us, it might be easier to see this on a number line, and that's what we're going to look at tomorrow. Now, I know you do not have base 10 blocks at home. There are some virtual ones that your teacher can share with you, or you can always draw these out. I think they're really easy to draw. I like to draw or write things out. Any way to help me remember it. So drawing this out for your examples that you're going to do today might be helpful. So grab your math journal and get ready to do some practice. Now, this is a really good day to do your practice, and if you are confused, if you're struggling, let your teacher know so they can help you, because tomorrow we are going to go into bigger numbers, thousands, maybe 10,000s, and we are going to look at a number line. And I kind of think the number line is my favorite tool for rounding, even better than these base 10 blocks that I showed you today. So work on your practice sheet that your teacher gives you, and just see how you do. And I will be back to help you with rounding again tomorrow. Thanks so much for your hard math work. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, friends.